All right. Good afternoon, my excellent friends.
Hey, everybody.
Thank you, everyone, for bearing with us. Um, so it's always an interesting adventure to set up everything. Obviously, want to do a quick audio check, make sure our audio is coming in well. Can I get a thumbs up from the audience if everything's checking out? Thumbs up, hoorays, yeses.
You got a thumbs up for me.
All right. Very, very cool. So today, guys, I'm so excited. Y'all, we get to talk about a game called Hollow Knight today. And it is a game that I have played all the way through. Let's see. Well, let's go to our slide here. So Hollow Knight is a game developed by Team Cherry. They released this in 2017. It is if you're not familiar with it, it is a platformer after the Metroidvania style. So in the style of games like the original Metroid and the original Castlevania games, there is a map that can be explored in a somewhat asynchronous way. Usually areas are blocked off based on certain items you can gather and collect, and Hollow Knight follows this. It's actually got a fairly large world to explore, which we'll get into more. But so there's this really cool, fascinating world that we're all going to get to dive in together. This game has won multiple awards. It was actually backed by a Kickstarter. If my numbers are correct, based on the Wikipedia article I read, something over $50,000 they raised on their Kickstarter. What actually, considering what they have produced, seems to be a very small number, but it is a remarkable piece of work in a lot of ways. Now we'll talk about things that maybe they do really well, things maybe they don't do really well. We'll get into a good conversation about all of that, and I've got Scott here along with me to enjoy the ride together, and all of you, obviously. So ground rules, please, if you, at any point you want to ask questions in the chat, Scott's going to be my wingman. He's going to be watching the chat. He'll be trying to respond to y'all. And he'll ask questions. You can feel free to ask questions to him. I'll try to keep an eye on it, but I'll be playing, so I'll have Scott direct questions to me as well. And any observations or things that you know about the history or something unique about a particular element of it, please feel free and engage with us. We are looking forward to it. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yep. So really quick, I'll just start off with one simple question. I just typed it into the chat. Everyone in the chat, who has played the game and who hasn't played the game. And also, to be clear, we will probably go through a couple spoilers if you haven't played it, but I would assume that most people here have played it. The spoilers we'll probably go through won't be detrimental to your experience. So, Also, I was curious, for those who have played it, has anybody played it on Steel Soul mode? I have not. I haven't even tried it, but I was just curious.
I have not.
So, yeah.
Though I will say this is my little bit of clout when it comes to this game, is that I have beaten the Path of Pain. I have gotten all the way through the Path of Pain, and it was painful.
I wanted to ask you: is that the in the White Palace? I think it's called.
Yeah.
Is that? Yeah. So you were talking about that not too long ago, and so I picked the game back up, and he's like, I've got to do this too. So I just did it myself, and it was not easy at all.
No,
my goodness.
Oh man,
no, that was not easy.
Yes. Wow.
They call this it's a Metroidvania game, but it's a platformer game. But I didn't see any platforms in that area.
Well
Nothing.
said, sir. Well said.
Just saws and
buzzsaws for days. All right. Yeah. All right. So we're really excited to get into. I'm sorry, we're starting a little bit later than we normally would. As you all know, we are still kind of getting used to this whole streaming bit with all of the complexities therein of, and computers are dumb. If you don't know that yet, computers are dumb. So you gotta figure out all of their ins and outs, and
it's all the computer's fault.
Yeah, it's definitely all the computer's fault. Never,
especially for those of us who work in IT. That's right. Yeah.
All right, so let's see. Let's pull up the game.
I'm super excited about this too. I
All
love this
right,
game.
here we are. Let me actually. I need to bring that volume up just a little bit here. Let's see. How about there? Should hear a kind of a nice, soft, gentle piano in there. It's looking good. Okay. Scott, can you say something real quick for me? Oh, you're muted. You're muted. That's why I can't hear you.
Yeah, I did. When you went to the game, I muted myself. And then, I've been doing meetings since March every day.
Yep.
Online. You'd think I'd get this mute thing right. Sorry about that. Yep.
No worries.
Your
All right.
volume's great.
Okay, fantastic. And we've got, I'm using the good old Xbox 360 controller. It definitely is playable using the keyboard. I like the controller interface. I think it works really well. And if I got that working here, we're going to go ahead and get started. You will see my existing game up there, but we're going to start fresh from the very beginning. Oh, yes. I think my guess is, based on the fact that Brian is here, there's probably already been a conversation about Christopher Larkin. Oh, wait, there is. Or somebody's already talking about Christopher Larkin. Yeah. Christopher Larkin is the man behind the music in this game. And oh my gosh, I cannot stop gushing about the music in this game. It is so enjoyable. All right, here we go.
It is a go-to when you're doing heads down work. It's a go-to to put headphones on and listen to. It's absolutely beautiful. And also props goes to how they use music as a cue to action that's going on, and it transitions between action and non-action with the same theme. They do a really good job. It's fantastic.
And I will say that just to kind of give you a primer as we enter this world, the world of Hollow Nest, this world has a ton of lore. But there is almost no text about that lore anywhere in the game. The lore is almost 100% told through your interactions with the environment, just looking at things in the background, looking at the musical cues. The music tells a story in and of itself all the way through this whole thing. It is a remarkable show, don't tell example of lore in your game. Obviously, there is a little bit with some of the interactions with the characters, but primarily you get it just through experiencing this world. So,
only what you need to know. Right?
Yeah.
So the lore that you get from the interaction with characters is only like stuff you need to know on how to get to your goals and get to the next objectives. It's there. It's great to absorb, and it adds incredible depth to the game. But just like Dark Souls, you don't need it. If you want to play the game, just appreciate the action, appreciate the tight gameplay. You don't need it, but it is a very well crafted story. It is really good.
Well, with no further ado, let's enter Hollow Knight. Yes, we are not going to do Steel Soul. Y'all don't need to see that.
We should have a nice cutscene.
I love it.
And what's great is that all makes sense later.
I know, I was just going to say the same thing. Like, oh my gosh, it was so long ago that I saw that. And now, after having played the game, I'm like, that makes so much sense.
Right. It doesn't when you first start.
And here enters our primary character that you as the player will play, the Knight.
You know, one thing I like about this game is like the visuals here, and the whole rest of the game. You know, the game is told as bugs, right?
Mm-hmm.
Little tiny bugs, but the entire world feels to scale as a normal human, right? So it's not. You've got those lampposts. I think that's a great example. The lampposts look like a human-sized lamppost. It's not. There is some of like housing built out of smaller objects, but you don't feel that in the game at all.
All right, so what
here we are.
What I like to do is when we first start a game, the first couple of just minutes of gameplay are a really critical piece to the whole puzzle.
And this game does it well.
Yeah, so we've kind of introduced the character falls, and now we're left here. So anyone who's used a controller before is probably going to start with left and rights. And you'll notice that one of the first things is that it's very responsive. The back and forth is very fast, which I like. It's got a good pace to it. And so if all we've got is the back and forth, you got that nice subtle moving through the brush effect. And now we have run into a wall.
Oh no, what do you do?
This is fantastic. And okay, so you got the very basic introductory hit X button to attack. So if we were just following a tutorial, not experimenting anything like that, then we'll just go ahead and follow instructions and hit X. One hit, door knocks down, breaks into rubble, and now we can move past.
And even if you didn't have that instruction, you would still try to do something at that point and figure it out.
Now, what's really nice, and this will actually be something that persists a little bit through the game, if at this point you can't really tell, but as soon as you get into the hallway, you'll notice that there's actually a light around the primary character. And that gives you a little bit of help. There are actually areas in the game that are specifically sort of dark areas where this doesn't come into play as much. There are other items you can get that actually give you light, but it's just sort of a subtle lighting effect that I think adds a lot to the sort of atmosphere of the world. There's all of the edges are dark, and so only your immediate area really gets a lot of lighting. So lighting actually plays a huge role in this game. Scott was mentioning lamppost earlier, so we're hoping we'll see some more lights as we go forward. Okay, so door number 2, we now have to see if the player has learned anything from our first experience, because there's no tutorial hint at this point. So, all right, works the same way. Moving forward, here's another wall. Works the same way. Awesome. And now, what is this? Oh my gosh. Well, okay, you've gone through 3 rounds of being told what you're supposed to do. Let's try it. Ooh, all right. And there's a little... This is our first little active thing in the world. There's some sort of spinning object there that gives it a little bit of
point, you have
three-dimensionality.
no idea what it is.
But you can collect it, and now you see our plus up in the top there. There's a couple of visual cues that some stuff is going on. All right, here's another one. Let's go through our door here. There's a bug. Clearly a bug. And now, this is always a classic way to introduce the jump mechanic. There's a pit. If at this point you have no idea what's going on, you've gotten through a couple of doors, you've dealt with an enemy, now there's a pit, and we can't get out. They give you a little help. Jump.
I didn't know that tip was at the bottom there for the,
I know, because like 99% of players are going to come through here, and it's just going to be like, oh yeah, like I probably even just did this when I first came through the game. Like I didn't even think about it.
Yep, but us designers, we know exactly what that pit is for.
Yep, that pit is designed specifically to give even the most unfamiliar player a little bit of help. Now, we're going to go ahead. I'm going to let this bug hit me because I want to see what it looks like to get hurt, because we probably would have experienced that back a little bit. Ugh. Wow. You actually feel that. There's the screen shakes just a little bit. There's the black pieces that sort of fly off. And actually, if you watch the top, you can watch your health break. So we'll do it again. Watch the health bar. See that there's a line that slashes through, and that helmet piece smashes it apart. So there's lots of visual things going on to tell you what just happened. So there's helmet breaking. There's the black kind of goo stuff that splashes out from you. I think the controller shakes a little bit as well. And there's a lot of that visual and haptic feedback going around that really gave you the sound. Actually, the other thing, if you notice, is when you got hit, the whole thing sort of time slowed just a tiny bit, just a little bit. To give you that extra experience of that moment. So we can go ahead and... The one thing I like about when you hit that character is it bounces back a little bit. So there's a sense of sort of a physicality to what's going on there. A little... if you will. All right. So now we have a bigger space. You'll notice everything up to this point was a straight hallway. There wasn't really any verticality to it. Everything was very linear. And now we enter a larger space. So we've tried to teach the player a couple of things. They've learned a little bit about what it means to do the basic interactions. We've got attack and we've got jump. And now this is a space where you actually have to deal with both of those things in 2 dimensions rather than just on the one. So we've got our character at the bottom here. We can go ahead and do that. That's also really cool, is there's actually some interaction the player gets with the background. So if I do this, the little floral stuff in the background. Oh, and you can actually see the stones. They break a little bit too. Very destructive
and
little critter.
That's everywhere through the game too.
Yeah, everything. Yeah, absolutely. Now if we went for this little bit here, this is actually a little bit different than everything else. You can see it's got a little of those, you'll find that they're called geos, kind of shining on them. Also opposed to what used to be here, there's a little bit of a specularity, a shininess that it gets every so often. So a couple of visual cues telling you that what's going on here is actually a little bit more, this is a gettable item or some sort of greater interactable item going on. So we find if we hit it, stuff pops out, and we can actually just keep whacking on it.
Hey Caleb, I think your screen froze.
Okay, actually, I think
audio's good.
It's this is the Discord thing. So the stream is fine, but the Discord channel is wonky. So it's only affecting you, Scott. I'm sorry.
No, I do believe on YouTube it is also.
Oh, is it also on
affected.
YouTube?
Yeah.
Oh, fun. Let's see.
If if it's my internet, everybody on chat, let me know. Sorry to interrupt. I let it go for a little bit to see if it would clear itself.
No, that's fine. We want to... This is just the day for wonky streaming stuff. Let's see. Yeah, I've definitely got a warning that there's not enough going through the pipe here.
From YouTube?
Yeah, YouTube's telling me that there's some issues.
Okay.
Okay, got have audio videos frozen. I'll bet if I second.
I think you're back.
Okay.
Your video's looking good now.
Okay. Well, all right.
So you left off. You were talking about the geocache,
which is hilarious.
Yeah. It
Okay, let's see. Okay, so back to our bigger room here. So we've got some verticality. If you keep going to the right, there isn't anything. There's, a little bit of a reward for somebody who explored. But this is at the point where it's forcing you to have to go vertically. So we'll have to start moving vertically, challenging us to use our platform jumping. Now, what's actually really nice about this is the only enemy that was here was this guy down here. So everything that you go through here, all of these platforms, there is no threat. You can just deal with the platforms. No enemies are attacking you. That will change later in the game. Nothing falling from the ceiling, no enemies jumping out at you. You can just practice your platforming jumping ability and then move on. Oh yeah, I can see it jerking on the YouTube again. Oof.
I can see it too. Yeah, I didn't want to say anything.
No, it's all right. It's all right. We are where we are. Let's see. Let's see here. Realizing that getting my phone off the internet might help.
While we're waiting for that, just curious, is there anybody new to COGG in the audience? If so, I'm sorry. If so, welcome.
Oop, that's going to be a problem.
That goes backwards.
I'm just trying to see if I can save bandwidth anywhere.
Is that what the issue is, bandwidth?
I think so. Oops.
We'll get back, everybody. We had a similar issue, or it was a different issue, but we had similar problems when we did our last Let's Play.
With the pedestrian, yeah.
With the, yeah.
Actually, I'm looking at YouTube.
YouTube's looking good now.
Yeah, I think it looks okay.
Yeah, just go ahead and keep doing it that way. It's fine.
Okay. Well, tentatively...
I'll be 5 seconds behind. It's cool.
Oh, ouch!
It's fine. Don't worry about it.
I was no. Actually, I was responding to something that happened in the game. So, I was I was just not paying attention. I went back. I looked at the game. I jumped up, and lo and behold, a spike fell on my head. That was actually rather shocking. Which actually, great talking point. So, probably what that was designed for is our intrepid player has just figured out how to climb up these platforms. You're feeling very accomplished with life. You get to the top of these stairs, and the ceiling falls on you. Which the player who is paying attention would probably have seen that and probably not have gotten hit on the head with the spike. But I was not paying attention, and I definitely got hit on the head with the spike, which is actually sort of satisfying, just in terms of looking at it from a design perspective.
I noticed, because I did a playthrough last night or the night before, and I noticed there were a couple, and I was paying attention to the design of this area, and I noticed there were a couple traps after they taught you how to do something, and then they trap you with something. Mm-hmm. It's like, you got to pay attention now.
So, speaking of lighting, once again, we have this little thing that bubbles up with sort of a lighting effect as you get close to it, and then you see this inspect dialogue. And if you hesitate too long over it, it gave you a tutorial on it. Oh, I might have been jumping around too much. The tutorial went away. But use, what is it? Yeah, the down arrow allows you to interact with it. So there's a couple of these things littered throughout the game where they are just some blocks of text available for you to watch. And this is actually talking to you about the idea of soul, which is something that you may have seen already at this point that your character was collecting, and that kind of face shape thing next to your health bar. And so what this is telling you, obviously, is you can hold B and you can use soul to heal yourself. This is probably one of the most inspired pieces of this game, if I'm going to say. So if I hold B, I can demonstrate it working. So what's just kind of really interesting about this as a player, I have, if I've been paying attention, 5 points of health, which is not much, and you don't actually get tons more in the game. You get probably, what is it, like 15, maybe 10, 15. I think you can have special things that boost you up to maybe 20. But it's not tons. It's not very much at all. And some of the enemies will hit for more than just one piece of damage. And so what this healing mechanic allows you to do is, as you defeat enemies, it gives you this soul ability that you can then use to heal yourself. But it takes a little bit of time. And so when you're in the middle of a lot of combat, especially boss encounters, it's this really fascinating choice that the player then has to balance between, am I going to try and dodge out of the enemy's attacks, or can I find a quick second in there to actually be able to heal myself? And if I take that risk, am I gonna be able to get it and leave that state quickly enough in order to make it worth it, or is it gonna actually cause me to get damaged? If I only heal one and he hits me for two, was like I'm worse off than where I was. So it's this really cool risk reward benefit balance that you, the player, have to make decisions about through the entirety of the game. And as you play against different enemies and learn their attacks and learn when is an appropriate moment, it also gives you the chance to, when you're in the middle of really intense battles, you can actually pause for a second. You can take a step back and say, okay, I'm going to take a break. And it gives the game a little bit of a cadence in that way, so it's not just ratcheted up all the time. You can actually step back. There's a reason to step back, because you can heal yourself, and then you can go back into the fray. And so with a game with a lot of action like this, that's a nice breather. So I could talk a lot about the mechanic, but we'll see it play out a little bit more here.
Yeah, we'll see it. Yep. And the balance that they created is fantastic. It's like there's like what Caleb was talking about during boss fights, especially. There's little spots that you feel that you've got enough time to do it, but the developers probably intentionally left a little bit of time, but not enough time to do the heal, and it bites you in the butt instead, and it's a great thing. And it's also a really good feeling when they do give you the time. It's like, oh, I've got a breather. I can do it now.
And what's really so kind of, we're in another room now. There was a flying enemy, which is introducing you to the idea they're going to be flying enemies that we're going to encounter on our way up this shaft. So you can just start climbing up, but the explorers among us will actually notice that to the left there is another door. This is actually fun how they do this, is that they offer areas. Some of them are more obvious, like this door. Some of them are more hidden. But their areas that they lead to are completely blacked out. You would say probably has a fog of war over it. But as soon as you get access to that area, then it reveals itself. So you kind of have that hidden reward aspect going on. This is one of my favorite things about playing Metroidvanias, is that
Yep.
you get all of the hidden areas, and so I'm always looking for that cracked wall or that slight discoloration or something. I always have a lot of fun with that. And intrepid explorer was rewarded with a Geo, and there was another spike that tried to fall on my head, but I just happened to be a pixel off of where it landed.
I think that was one of the first real traps where it was like you have to stand in this spot and to get the cash, but there's a spike over your head.
Oof.
Yep.
Man, you just feel it when you get hit like that. It is so good. All right, let's see if we can get something more interesting. Ah, blue goo. Okay, blue goo. Let's hit it.
What is that?
It's actually really gross and disgusting, but you get health points, so hey, you know.
And also incredibly good, you can't really hear it very well on YouTube, incredibly good squishy sounds when you do that.
I could bring up that volume a little bit.
Yeah, I think you're good. I just have it really quiet in YouTube.
Okay. Right. Okay. Yeah, now what's interesting is when it gives you that extra health, the player can see it up there, but there's a couple of things that obviously make it stand out. So it's blue, for one. It's squishy. If you watch it, it kind of drips and has a little like squish animation. The eyes are slightly tilted. It's obviously something that's a little bit different than the rest of your health, and as a player, you'll find out that that's only temporary. As soon as you lose those two, you don't get them back. So it kind of acts as an additional shield or temporary armor.
I never noticed the eyes were tilted.
Oh yeah. They're just a little bit. Whoa! Okay. Apparently, I have not played this game in a long time. This is one of those maddening things where the ground fell out from underneath of me. And now to the left, I can see a platform, and I can see Geo that I could potentially get, but I can't jump high enough to get up to it. And so it's just like, no. So that drives me crazy as like the explorer, semi-completionist type. All right, so now we're going to enter into...
It's almost as if you need like, an extra power up to get there.
Yeah. So now we're going to enter into our first area that's actually going to ask a challenging question of the player in terms of their platforming abilities. So we have now taken away the safety of a floor. So if you miss, you were fine before. Now you're actually going to suffer if you miss this time. So there are spikes over the floor. It's got that nice shininess all over it to get that kind of sharp. This is a thing that you can be impacted by. If you have ever played a platformer, basically ever, you are going to get the idea that that these are going to hurt you. In many games, that would be an instant death. I think in this case, they hurt you too. I think.
You lose one unit of health, and they put you back on the last platform standing. Safe platform standing.
I'm gonna. Yeah, that's what it is. Yep. All right. Also, they have reintroduced the dropping spikes from the ceiling because, of course, they have. Now, it's really fun when you get here. Again, this game really rewards the intrepid player who likes to explore. You will notice that the spikes end, but it's tricky because they're doing two visual things to try and make you believe that the spikes haven't ended. Is that in the background, there is a spike wall that continues on, and in the foreground, there are stalactites. Is it stalactites or... anyway, there's the spiky things in the beginning, in the foreground. And so because both of those things continue on, and because that section to the right is all in shadow, it's really rewarding you from paying attention. But for the player who's paying attention, you can go down here and find yourself some Geo. There's that little bell, you might have heard it, kind of like a boom. And you'll hear that periodically throughout. It gives you just a nice little auditory reward for, hey, good job on you, you found the thing. There's actually this really great episode from Extra Credits that talks about this thing. I don't think it's called negative space. What is it called? But it's basically the idea that if you put in a thing into a game where basically naturally it doesn't seem possible to go to that. But of course, players are trying to break games all of the time and going, climbing the inclimbable mountain or making it to the top of some area that clearly wasn't designed to be climbed up to. And designers can sort of pre-plan ahead for that and provide for them a little bit of a reward, like a signpost or a high five or just something that says, hey, good job, you did it. Obviously, this was specifically designed as a part of the game that is easier for a player to get to, but it makes it say, I made this challenging for you to get here. Congratulations, you surpassed it, you made it. Here's a bell. And that's a lot of fun. I like that. What's really fun about this is you realize that there's just no way you're going to clear that gap. And this is the Metroidvania piece stepping in saying, aha! Yep.
Yep. And it's obvious. It's obvious that you can't even try, right? But as you were saying, it's like the Metroidvania fan, if you've ever played one, you know that this is something that you should come back to.
And I like that they introduce this to you as well. So they don't show this to you from the opposite side, but this is actually a thing that shows up a lot throughout the game. Is there's a wooden post holding up a wall, and in other parts of the game, if you're on the side of the wall where the post is not, you won't be able to see that it's there. But once you've kind of gone through an area, you've accomplished something, you can then break the post, and then that opens up that area for you to go back into. That's how they can make circular areas usually. So you go in one way, you go through sort of a challenge, and then they bring you back to the beginning without having to backtrack, which is always a good thing to do. Yep. And that's actually exactly what they did here, because this pit is where you fell into right at the very beginning. So they took you down, over, and then back up again through that spike area and that challenge area, so that you could come back to the top.
Now, do you think you could reach that geo?
No, I remember trying that. They were kind of. Well, they were sneaky. They added a ceiling to the top that kind of drops down a little bit, so that you can't get the height. Oh shoot! Whoops.
It's okay. We want to see it.
So yeah, moving onward, we've got another one of our little. Hollow Nest. And actually, I just realized something. I was talking about the tutorial earlier with these interactable objects. The interactable text there tells you what you need to do to interact with it. It actually has an arrow pointing down baked into it as a part of its design to tell you what to do. I think there actually was still a pop-up earlier in the game to show you that, the first one you encountered, but it's still kind of baked in there to help you remember, since interacting with objects isn't something you do on the regular. All right, so now we get to our big door. This is literally just a large version of the smaller doors that we saw earlier.
And takes more than one hit.
And takes quite a few more than one hit. So things have been pretty quiet on the musical front so far. That is about to change. Got a little bit of howling wind, some broken stuff behind. We have those lampposts that Scott was talking about with the sort of shells built into their design. There is our musical cue bringing us to Dirtmouth.
Yeah.
All right. So Dirtmouth is what essentially acts as your base of operations for the rest of the game. As you go through and explore all of Hollow Nest, you can continue to come back here. There's one or two shops you can kind of purchase a couple of things from with your geo. There's this nice bench here. The bench introduced our save mechanic. So go ahead and save. That refills your health, creates a checkpoint for you, and you can stop and then continue from wherever your last bench was. Actually, that becomes a really important mechanic later on. Just sort of, you get into the thick of things and you're like, oh my gosh, I've done all this stuff. I've accomplished all these things. Where's a bench? I need a bench. Do I go back to the last bench? Do I try to see if I'm almost at another bench and possibly die? So the benches, they're really well placed, in my opinion, throughout a lot of the game, really pushing the player further and further along to find their appropriate next bench.
And they're just far enough apart when you find one and you're in the thick of it and you're like really hurting, your life is low, and you've gone so far and you want to get to another checkpoint. It feels so good when you find one. It's like, oh, finally, there's one. I get to rest.
Yeah, and there's a good point there from Raul about how the game world is just totally built with this idea of bugs. Every single facet of it is taking that bug idea into play. So let's actually go ahead and show the menu here. Let's see. The weapon that our character uses is a nail. It's not actually a sword, and so everybody that carries one of these weapons is actually using a nail, which is a size-appropriate tool of choice, which is great. And all of the backgrounds and everything, all of the different areas, because Metroidvanias tend to have very distinct areas throughout the game, and each of the areas is very distinctly pulling on different kinds of bug designs, apparatus, that kind of a thing. The Underdark is definitely one of my least favorite places. Hashtag spiders.
Yes, Deep Nest, right?
Deep Nest, that's what it is. You're right.
Yep, Deep Nest. Yes, that place is creepy, and that's something that's really beautiful about this game. Is we notice that the character is very cutely drawn. All the other characters have this very cute, cartoony look to it, but it's still very brooding and downright creepy in spots. And Deep Nest is a great example. The ambient audio is creepy. The little spiders all over the place, and there's a couple jump scares, and it's a great mix between those two worlds.
And there's this fascinating thing they did with the language too, is that there's sort of this made up sort of babble, but it's very distinct from character to character, the sounds that they make. So I think this guy makes a little noise when you come up to him.
Before our stream actually started, we were talking about that. And how each character, we can hear the audio in our head.
Yes, I'm sure any of you who have played this game have the phrase "Baf Canada" just stuck in your head for all time.
My wife and I had a thing where it was just like we translated it into empanadas. It's like, I'm hungry. Let's get an empanada.
All right, so I've gone ahead and just to kind of move us along and explore a tad bit, get into some action of the game. We've gone ahead and left Dirtmouth into the first area of the game. So we get to introduce some new characters. Oh. You know what I really want to do? I really want to show the death mechanic, because this is the other thing that I think
you should do that.
Really fantastic about this game. So I'm just going to let this guy completely just destroy me. So,
it's good to talk about, because it's got its pros and cons.
Yes. Okay. Oh, let's see. So a couple of things happening visually on the screen. We're down to our last health. There's now these black lines across the top of the screen. Actually, they just went away, which is also interesting. So it's that immediate thing. Our character is now sort of bleeding these black bubbles Up at the top left, we see the face is shivering and shaking with all of the black bubbles. And that is really great because if you're like me, you don't always look at that top left corner all the time. You're not always 100% aware of your health, so it gives you a lot of warning signs saying, hey, warning, you are almost dead, sir. And so it's a nice visual cue that pulls your mind up there, keeps it in your head. And then, yeah, let's go ahead and do ourselves in. Okay, so just before the screen went black, you saw a little black shape similar to your character show up there at the end. And now a couple of things have also changed, or at least one specific thing has changed now that you're back. You can see you've gone back to the last bench you were at, and that'll persist. It'll always remember the last bench you were at, so if you should perish, that will take you back there. And all of your Geo is gone, so you're now at 0. You're at full health, but your soul collector is now cracked. And so that's significant. Yep. What you will find out is that you can actually no longer completely fill that up anymore. It's now capped at about half what it was before. So we'll go back through. What this allows us to do is we go back down into our deep dark dungeon. So you hear the music change a little bit. And that's because you're in proximity to your shadow. Your shadow gets released when you get defeated. And then what this does is your shadow contains all of your Geo and the rest of your soul collector. So you can actually go back, and it's not just as simple as walking up to it, though. You actually have to fight it, and once you defeat it, then it will give you back everything that you lost. So it's nice because you could be, I've got a lot of Geo, I've made it really far, I die, and now I need to go back and get all of my stuff back. So you're a little perilous because if you die a second time, you lose everything. It doesn't come back.
It's gone, right?
You then have to go deal with your shadow again, wherever it was that you died the second time. But yeah, the other thing that's really interesting, we'll go ahead and just fight this. He'll chase after you. At this point, he's pretty easy. Just whack him a couple times. He absorbs back in. We get all of our Geo back. We get our full soul collector back. But as you get stronger, so does it. It actually gains new abilities and becomes more and more difficult to defeat as you go through the game, which I think is really fun. It's really annoying when he's got, my 10,000 Geo that I really want to get back, and he kills you. It's very demoralizing. Let's just do a little wandering.
So there's a couple things about that that mechanic. I think it's really great because it adds a little bit of frustration and it makes you feel that you need to go back to where you were to get the Geo that you might have lost, and it adds a bit of a little bit of panic, I guess, in a good way. However, I noticed while playing the game that there's a couple areas that if you, like for a boss fight, if you die on that boss, which you die in every single boss in this game, I'll say, until you learn the pattern, you die in every single one, and it's expected. But there's a couple of them that, like, if you drop down to fight said boss, your Dark Soul or whatever, I can't remember what it's called, but that is inside that area. So you have to go back and fight that boss, and not like maybe I need another power up or something like that, or I need a little more practice. You're stuck. You have to go back there,
unless you want to lose everything.
Unless you're like, forget it, I can lose it, it's fine. But or if you have the witch, I can't remember that character's name. Later on that you can use, I think you can pay eggs to something.
That's right. Yep. Yep.
Yep.
Which I didn't find out about until the very end of the game, by the way.
I know. You do figure it out late. But I feel that, I don't know if they did that on purpose, just to add a little bit more frustration, but it's a little too hard in some cases. Like, I have no choice but to fight this boss.
Yeah. So here's an interesting character. This is a clearly sad worm kind of creature, and there's a bunch of holes where presumably other worm kinds of creatures should be, and he's very sad about that. I like that the whole scene communicates that without having to tell you any bit of dialogue at all. I like that a lot. But you will come back here periodically throughout the game.
Yep. I like what you get out of it, but he always creeped me out. I don't know why.
There are theories about that too.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, so what happens after you find all of them?
Yeah.
And you come back? Yeah. That's kind of weird.
Oh, whoops. Didn't mean to do that. Yeah, so here's another one of our characters. I kind of like how you were introduced to this character, is you find these pages littered about wherever that character presently is, and you hear that very iconic sound.
Yep. I love everything, what they've done about this. Cornifer, is that his name?
Yeah.
And what you use him for and how you can find him, I think they've done everything perfect. The audio cues for that song that gets stuck in your head is great, because every time you find a new area, the first thing you want is a map, right? And that's what this guy gives you. I'm sure Caleb will explain. But anytime you enter in a new area, you're desperate to find a map, and you want to find him, and you can hear him. As you get closer, it gets louder, and that's like your goal. It's like, okay, I hear him. Where is he? I gotta find him. Oh, there's a page. Let me find it. And it's beautifully done.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, so I just went ahead and purchased my first map. The first map is really inexpensive. It's 30. It does not take very long to collect that much. So I already had 100, and I haven't even been trying.
No matter what, you've got it by now.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, he talks about his wife and Dirtmouth selling compasses. So now we can see a map. And the map is actually, I think, it's really interesting how they've done it, because they do give you a map of everything, but it's very much just a drawn map. It doesn't really tell you anything more than that. It doesn't give you any other details beside the fact that it's just sort of, here's a sketch of the map. And it doesn't even give you everything, actually. It's a relatively limited map of everything. But you do get the ability to add more to it later as you explore. And you also get the ability to add compasses that show where you are on the map, which you presently don't have the ability to see. So it gives it really limited to you. And I think there's some enjoyment to be had in that. So if you are a little bit more of a hardcore player and you don't want to have a compass, you can actually purchase it and turn it off, I believe. You can just play the game with this as your map. You don't necessarily have to get anything more than this. Actually, you technically don't even need to get the map, I don't believe. You can just continue to play it without anything. But if you...
Yeah, I guess
there's
technically you don't have to.
Yeah, there's layers that you can have. So you could go no map at all. You can have just the drawn map. You can have the map that gets filled in as you go through. You can have the map with the compass and see where everything is, which I recommend if that's your first playthrough to do that. But
early on, use the compass. But the compass takes one of your slots.
That's true. You're right. It does, which we haven't talked about yet. Yeah. We haven't gotten there yet.
Oh yeah. Well, I'm sorry.
We just haven't run into it yet.
That's right. Comes later.
Yeah. So, Mr. Humming. Let's just explore a little bit more. Ooh, that was almost bad.
I like how the map, while you're doing that, also what you were talking about, how that the map he sells you is, in the lore, what Cornifer himself has explored, and that's what he says. He's like, hey, this is the area that I've explored. It's not all of it. You can fill in the areas, and you can see the empty doors where he hasn't explored. And I think that was really creative because it gives you, as the player, it gives you agency. It totally gives you the good feeling of, hey, I discovered this area. And I think that was really well done. It gives you just enough to know how to proceed.
Oh yeah, mini boss area. So there's a couple of these that you get thrown into where there's a... Oh, jeez. I'm about to die. Ha! Where it actually locks you in with these metal gates and prevents you from being able to continue exploring anywhere else unless you deal with this enemy. It's kind of a forcing your hand. I'm being very careful because I am almost dead here. It will ruin my mojo if I... Oh! Well, ruined my mojo. Back to Dirtmouth it is. Well, hey, we can go to the map maker's wife's place. Here's the shop.
There you go.
Bafanada.
A Bafanada, that's what it is. I always say Bafkanada is my head, but
Bafkanada.
Yeah. So this is where you can actually buy some different things. Most of these have to do with the map. The wayward compass is where it can actually show you where you are on the map. The quill is actually the item that you need in order for you to fill in the map as you explore, which is
absolutely necessary.
It's really, really helpful, like insanely helpful. So I would almost always have the wayward compass on just for its functionality. But what this is actually introducing you is a thing in the game called the charm, and it hasn't really been officially introduced yet. I'm not sure where it gets introduced officially, but what it does essentially is you have a certain number of slots that you can then apply upgrades to, and it gives you this incredible range of customizability with your character. Let me see if I can find the menu for it. There's our map. Here's an inventory. Oh, it's not there because we don't have any of them yet. So, cool.
I think that comes after your first boss fight.
You think it's that late in the game? It's possible.
I think so. I can't remember.
Yeah, I'm having trouble remembering too.
In my last playthrough through the first boss, it's actually pretty quick. But when you're playing and you're exploring and you're discovering things, it does take longer.
Yes.
But it's actually really quick.
Well, I'm gonna pop back down and see if I can't find my way to Old Shadowy.
You know, it's interesting that your choice of path, and this is something that we can talk about too, and how they designed this area. Your choice of path was to the left.
It was. You're right.
And not to the right. Yeah. First
You
time I
are
played
correct.
the game, I went to the right.
You know, I think I might have also done that. I think I might have also gone to the right first.
Yep. And there's actually a pretty important room if you go to the right.
And actually, it's possible that might be where the charm introduction happens. Now that I'm thinking about it.
Do you think so?
I'm not
But
sure.
while you're getting back to where you were, this area is deceptively linear. There is only one way through this area.
Yes.
And you have to go through this one path to get to it. But while you're in the thick of it, it doesn't feel like it. It feels like you are making all of the choices and you're in control of this really large area. And in actuality, it's a pretty small area. But they design it in a way that you don't notice it, but they are pointing you in a certain direction, and that direction on the map is the picture of there's like a big picture of something that looks a little menacing with big antennas, and that's your first boss fight. So everything kind of funnels that way, but you've got a lot of different paths. As we were talking, you can go right or left from the very beginning, and it feels good as a player. You don't really notice it. You don't really realize it.
Yeah. Now, something I wanted to point out here is if you look at the exits from here. Oh, jeez. There is one down here. All right, fine. You're gonna make me do this, huh? So there's one exit down here, and it just kind of looks like most of the other hallways you've gone through. But up at the top, there is actually a glow coming from that one. That's some lighting effect that's making a little bit of telling you there's something there. But what's also fun is there's a signpost right here. And that signpost is actually pointing you, I guess it would be that way, up to the same door where that glow is. Now, if you were just rushing through here and slicing and dicing everything up, you could slice up that signpost without having any idea what it was there for. Now, once you come back to the area, it'll be there. But the signpost has actually fallen down here, and it's essentially useless at that point. So it's a destructible piece in the environment that's actually useful. It's actually telling you something about the game. So we can go up through here.
And some of those signs are pretty important.
Yeah.
The directions to benches, and also directions to fast travel. What's the bug's name for the fast travel?
Oh, the Stag Beetle, right?
Yeah, it's the Stag
Beetle
yeah,
stations.
Right.
Yeah. So what you find here is a pool, and there's actually a bench here, and it sort of requires that you have to go through the pool to get to the bench, and that teaches you that once you go in the pool, it heals you. So it gives you that healing effect, and then you get bench.
Why does the water for the pool have to come out of their mouths? That's what I always wanted to know.
I don't know.
Again, it's the cute but creepy.
It is the cute but creepy. I think it also has a little bit of utility too, because it looks like your character, so it feels more friendly, more comfortable, like it's something that belongs.
That's true. You're right. Good point. Safety of the bench.
The safety of the bench. Let's see. Oh yeah. That's good. I'm trying to look up here. Just play through some of this. Pay attention to the sounds of creatures. Some of the musical cues. The musical tracks here are extremely adaptive. They really are affected by where you are and what you're doing.
The audio cues is fantastic in this game.
Oh, that was an utter disaster. Well, moving along.
Somewhere along here, I can't see your live, but somewhere along here, I think is your first rub.
Yes, I haven't heard it though. I think there was actually one. Oh, hey, here's our Stag Beetle station. So, so you come into here. If you have paid attention to signs, then you'll see the sign showing you that there is a Stag Beetle station. Though at this point, you have no idea what a Stag Beetle station is. Actually, I was really intimidated the first time I found one of these. So I came up here, and then there's a little glowy light, little Stag Beetle icon. Gonna move in here. It gets quiet. It made me a little nervous the first time.
I remember that myself.
And then there was this gate here and a thing, and my mind just wasn't thinking. I don't know. It wasn't thinking safe space, even though there's a bench here. Benches are usually safe space, huh?
And it's brighter too, isn't it?
It's maybe a little bit. There's a lamppost there.
Oh yeah.
And so you can use the toll machine, and the gate comes down.
I forgot you had to pay for.
Yeah, well, yeah, you have to pay to unlock it, and then you can use it unlimited times. But you can ring the bell, and then out of the darkness comes this thing, and I was so intimidated by this guy, this big beetle. And of course, everything has put me on edge so far because there's been flying creatures and attacking creatures and all kinds of other creatures. I'm really on edge, and so then oh, he's fine, he's harmless.
And I think one of the coolest things is just like any other bug, the shop owners and this guy, you can talk to him, right? You can jump down to the bottom instead of using the travel option. You can talk to him, and I really like the stories that this guy tells you, because he tells you he's really old, and he tells you about how the tunnels used to be traveled by all sorts of bugs in his day, and how everything just kind of crumbled over the years, and now he's the only. Long story short, he's the only one left, and he does a really good job telling a story. But all of them are like that. You can go behind counters and shops, and talk to bugs there too.
So I actually just used the Stag Beetle to travel back to Dirtmouth, and that actually opens up a new building in Dirtmouth. You'll see this a couple of times as you go along. You'll open up some new shops and things within Dirtmouth. There's actually, there's one right here that's closed up, and later on you'll be able to open that up, and there'll be another shop. Yeah, it introduces a really nice quick travel thing. So like a lot of Metroidvanias, the work being done here is it's giving you access to things as you have accomplished the challenges. So I went through the work, finding the Stag Beetle station, and now that I have found one, I can use it to travel more quickly throughout. So it becomes less about the difficulty of traveling around, and I can take each individual challenge on its own terms rather than having to trudge all the way through Hollownest to find whatever it is that I'm looking for. I can get somewhat close to it based on the work that I'm doing, and it will continue to give you more and more abilities to quickly travel throughout Hollownest, because it is pretty big.
Very big, yes.
I'll point out another visual cue is at the door to the left there's light pouring in from it. And if I actually look at the map, I have a sense of where I am. It's okay if you haven't seen it yet. But that's actually the one that points down to the big horned character there at the side. What do you think, Scott? Do you think I should go do that?
Nah, let's go to a couple other places first.
Okay, where should I go?
Go up to the egg. What is it called? Immediately to the right of your first entrance.
Sure, I'll go up there.
Yeah.
Now I do want to point out something. This is one of those. If you're paying attention, the game tells you something's going on. There's a little noise, a kind of a noise. And if you are looking at the terrain here, you can see that there's this ledge that doesn't seem to really have any other purpose here besides having this wall. And that behind that wall is a black space, which is potentially big enough to hold something. And if you're a trying out type, and actually, you can go ahead and hit this wall, and you'll see it bouncing back, reflecting against your stuff. Oh, jeez. And then you can find a secret area and a grub. So this is a sort of extra thing that you can do throughout the game, is you can find and save grubs who have been captured in these glass containers. So you can break him open, little celebration, and he disappears. You'll find later that he actually has gone back to the Grub Father that we saw earlier. So it's a nice little completionist, extra collectors kind of thing, hidden areas throughout the game. Some of them will be really obvious where they are. They're like, there's the grub, but you have to go through this challenge in order to be able to get to it. All right. Oh, yeah.
You know, I remember what shocked me is the first fake grub you come across in Deep Nest.
Oh, no. Yes. I remember this as well.
Yep.
Oh, dear.
It's like, what is going on? What is that?
Yeah, so by doing what I just did, I accidentally, well, because I didn't go right, you actually could go right from the outset and you would end up here, but if you went down, this would have been locked and you wouldn't have been able to actually get down to the boss area. Now, because I came the other way, I have unlocked this first. I didn't actually remember that that was a thing, so
Yep.
cool. And so that allows you to kind of, again, you go through the area that's challenging and then you find ways to unlock it so that you can go back to it more easily again later. Just connecting all of my dots here.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah. Yeah, this is a pretty significant thing we need to do soon. Yeah. Oh, yeah, so here's a grub, and you just can't get to that grub. It is out of reach.
Oh,
You can see it, but it is just nothing you can do about it.
And anybody who plays a Metroidvania game knows that there's something else you need to get to them.
Take note, come back later.
That's right. You know, something else that's really cool about this game is there are a couple areas that feel like that, but if you take creative use of your environment, you can get around. You don't need that particular power-up. For example,
And then there
you're
are
down
other
between-
times... Yeah, there are other times then where that's not the case.
Right. Yep.
Not for lack
the
of
developers-
trying.
The developers just left that in there, though.
Yeah.
Bapanada.
I'm gonna get myself a quill. We'll show you how that affects the map. Let's see. Do I have to do something to turn it on? That's right. When resting at a bench, it'll update.
That's right.
It'll update with everything you've seen.
Yep.
Okay, so I went to the right, which, if you're from a Western background, a lot of times you just go right first, because it seems like the natural thing. I always go left first if you can, because the right is almost always the significant story plot, and I always want to see everything else before then. But yeah, so you go right here, and you'll see this big, glowy, weird thing. Also of note, there are no enemies at all. And if you enter it, it'll come through here. And if you were paying attention, you will see the object that kind of glowed ominously at the very beginning of the game. And there's a character here who will give you a little bit of lore.
Yep. And I can't remember this guy's name, but
Quirrell.
He's pretty crucial character.
He is.
Actually,
yeah.
You don't have to utilize him, but he will be one step ahead of you everywhere you need to go, confirming that you're on the right path, that you need to go you need to go here. He never says it outright, right? But if you're just kind of paying attention, you can get the sense that you're doing everything right. And if you, along with him, there's a couple other characters. If you talk to him and go through his story, he actually assists you in a future boss fight. There's a couple other characters that do that, don't they?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, what's her name in the gardens? She does that too.
Are we talking about
Hornet?
Hornet, yeah.
Yeah.
That music, man. It's so good.
And it just gets better too.
It does. Oh, yeah. This is actually legitimately difficult battle. This early in the game, it's really tough.
Did you go all the way to the right?
All the way to the right.
Yeah, I think they included him there to be impossible at this current state.
Oh, he's not impossible.
Oh. I could never.
Oh, yeah!
Did you?
Got him.
I could never beat him until I get the first spell, Vengeful Spirit.
And I got a grub as a reward.
Nice job.
Thank you.
I remember the first time I came across him, I was like, what? That's the first time that, like you said, that's the first time it gets real.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, okay. Well, I'm going to point us towards the direction of our first boss battle here.
Yeah, go for it. There's lots of other areas to.
There's so much.
You get a sneak peek of the Crystal Caverns, but you can't go. You can't actually get to them yet. It yet.
So I updated our map here. So we can't see where we are because I don't have the compass, but you can see all of the places that I've been to. Of note, you can actually see up at the top left, there's that little section with the little lumps. That's where the Grubfather was. And that actually was not a part of the original map. I had to have gone there to have unlocked that space. And actually at the very up on the top right, that's where that battle was that I just had, where I found the grub. That was also not on a part of the original map either, so I have opened that up as well. So let's go ahead, let's head towards our middle section here with our boss character. Just want to give you a flavor for that. Some of the bosses range from downright silly to terrifying. Oh, here's another one of those big guys. Now, what's
this
interesting?
one you can cheat on.
Yeah, this one you can actually skip, and actually I did that by accident. So he's down here. You can try fighting him, or you can just jump over top of him.
Yep.
And move.
There's also a
on.
ledge that you can stand on that you can back away easily from his club.
Yep.
And then just like stab him really quick with your nail. But yeah, to your point, you just skip right over him if you feel he's too tough.
And also, yeah, right here. Whoa. I'm not going to chance it. I'm just going to keep going. We got a boss to fight.
Yeah.
Question is, will they give me a bench before I get there? No,
Nope.
I don't think so.
Nope.
Well, this will be fun. So notice the music has died down a bit. It's a bit quieter now. We find ourselves that there's a gate. Oh, you know what? Silly me.
I was wondering.
It's been a long time. Yes, I just used our ability to heal because that's a thing that's totally there and I could use all the time. And they were even kind enough to give me a little bit more so I could get fully healed. Okay, this is the most iconic, hey, here's a boss room you will ever see. Oh yeah! The False Knight.
And this is a great boss to come back to after you've played through the game.
Ooh. What's also really nice is there's a lot of leeway here.
Yeah.
He jumps a lot, making it really easy to get underneath of him. Oh, come on. There we go. I'm trying to see what else I can say about it. It uses that same sort of wave attack, so if you've run into the big guy from earlier, then it looks pretty familiar to what something you've already seen.
Yeah, it is. You're right.
Oops. He backs away from the corner too, so you don't get trapped in the corner. He moves pretty slow, so I can stand over here and do a lot of there's a lot of time to do a recharge. So this gives you a good break. Okay, so I got him. Ah! This weird giant white head thing pops out. Let me throw something a little different at you. Oof. And now, for periodically, it will drop things from the ceiling. Now, you probably have noticed at this point that a lot of creatures have this sort of yellow bit around them. And you'll notice that even the things from the ceiling have this orange yellow bit around them. And that is actually part of the lore of the game. There is a specific reason for why that is happening. And it makes a difference if a character has it versus if a character doesn't have it. That's actually a significant role that will be played throughout the rest of the game. It's not by accident. It's not just... I mean, it does serve to sort of say, hey, here's a bad guy. He's got orange on him. But it's a little more significant than that. And I love that that's just a reality that exists in the game for a long time before you even have a clue that that's going on.
That's right, yeah. Good point. It's good to call out. You don't even notice it right now.
Mm-mm. It's just a reality that's there.
But I think after the first main of the 3 bosses, then it becomes very
a little bit more apparent, yeah.
Yeah.
And they're kind enough that hitting his armor doesn't give you any soul ability to heal yourself, but once you get to hit his face, then that will let you recharge that.
And that's definitely a repeated thing with boss fights throughout the entire game.
Yep. Okay, so whatever that white thing was is now lying dead on the floor. And we got a city crest.
And I think something else that's cool here is the mace that he was using is actually another bug. And I think if you walk away and come back, the mace starts to walk away.
Yes, I actually there it is, running away. So
this game's just full of charm like that.
oh, it is. It absolutely is. Woo! Money, 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 money. Nice little reward for having completed your quest. I'm going backtracking here for a second. Yeah. There is a little bit more, I think, where there's a little bit you can go up here, but you can't get up there because it is hidden from us. So let's find out what's here. Oh, yeah. So, because, of course, the way Metroidvanias work is they give you rewards as you move through them, then this is our first new upgrade, a new reward.
Yep.
Namino.
That made me really angry the first time I played it.
What? That you couldn't get up there?
No, for the... are you going for the Vengeful Spirit? Again, I'm 5 seconds behind you, so...
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, after you talk to this guy.
Consumed the Vengeful Spirit. Yep, so it's a new soul ability. That's one of the ways that these things will manifest, is they'll get the ability to fire out this projectile of some kind.
Namino.
So this is another classic thing to do. It's whenever you introduce a new ability to your player, you need to be able to give them the opportunity to understand how that works and how it functions.
Yeah, force them to do it.
Yeah, and force them to kind of have to wrestle with this thing. One of the games that has done this better than almost every other game is Portal, which is a game that is literally teaching you how to use the tools at your disposal throughout the entire game. Periodically showing you new little tweaks and understandings for how to do it. So this game is doing a similar thing, where it creates a situation where you cannot progress until you have learned at least a little bit of a mastery for how to use the tools at your disposal. So this is something, as a designer, we should always be thinking about, okay, if I am giving my player a thing that they can use, have I also given them the tools to understand how to use that tool? And that can come in a lot of ways. Like you'll see here, it gives you an area that you're locked into until you're able to use a thing to get out of it. And sometimes maybe that requires some explanation via a text, or you'll see some games will give you a little challenge zone where you have to use it, or maybe it'll just show you what it looks like when you use it. There's a lot of different things that you can use in order to show a player how to use the things that you're giving them. But you have to be thinking about it. It's very, very important. What was it that made you so mad that you were saying, Scott?
That he traps you behind that door. So really forces you.
Really
the first time I
forces
played
you.
it, I kind of panicked. It was like, now I'm in a totally new area. I can't get back to what I wanted to do. But it didn't take me long to realize, it's like, oh yeah, they're just teaching me how to do something.
I'm waiting for the point here where it's actually going to force me to use it. It's in here somewhere.
And this whole area is another example of a tutorial. The little roly-poly guys they're a new bug introduced to this area, a new enemy introduced in this area, but it's for a reason. teaching you how to fight the mini boss. That's very important coming up.
Yeah, let me see here. Oh, here. That's right. Yeah, okay, this is the part that I was looking for. Okay, so he's armored up, and if you get close to him, you can't hit him. You have to hit him from a distance. It's the only way to do any damage.
And pay attention to what he looks like. Because he's one of these guys blocking your way somewhere else. How do you beat him?
All right. Oh, we collected a charm, and upon collecting our first charm, it gives us the tutorial for how that charm works. So it says, equip a charm to activate its abilities. You have to be at a bench to equip a charms. I will let you enjoy that text when and if you played it, or if you already have. But then it brings us back to where we were at the very beginning, and it also gives us a bench. So if this happened to be the first charm you've collected, you also have the opportunity, 1, to save, 2, to use your charms. And this was really cool. As soon as I sat on the bench, it told me the tutorial for the charms once again, just as a reminder in case it had been a while since the first charm I had collected. So, has cost of 2. I have 3 notches, so I can equip this one. There are all kinds of really fascinating charms throughout the game that give you lots of abilities, things that make things really easy, all kinds of stuff that's littered throughout. And I really admire the variety of the charms that you can get and the different things that they can do. You can actually see, if you look through all of those rows, there's quite a few that are available, and there's a lot of combinations for things. But they limit the notches that you have access to pretty tightly throughout most of the game. You don't ever get very many of them. And so it always is a really, it's a good sort of, I really have to think about what I want to use. Because it's not always easy.
Yep.
All right, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to power through pretty quickly to get us to the next area, because one of the things that I really want to show off about this game is how different areas are significant.
Yes.
Oh, this is really cool. Side note, but it's really neat. The guy who was here previously with the maps is now gone. And if you've gone through this whole thing as the developer had expected you to, you're going to figure out that he moves, because he leaves this little note. It says, sorry, I've missed you. If you didn't grab the map from this area, go ahead, go back to the shop. It'll be there waiting for you to pick up. Otherwise, I have moved on. And so you can now go find him in a new area. It also cues the player in to know, hey, there is now a new place to go to. Something has happened in your environment. You have enough abilities to move on to something new. Let's see, I'm trying to remember. Is it down? I think it's down from here. I love the background there.
You know, something really respectable about this game is the art. It's very simple but so detailed. Every area feels like it has its own unique background. Every area feels like it has its own unique feel. It's incredibly good.
Oh, nope, that was not the way to the next area. That was a grub. Oh well.
Well, hey, you got the grub.
I got the grub.
Yep. I think it's in that vertical shaft.
Yeah.
It's in the middle on the left, I think.
That was my second guess.
Of course.
Alrighty, up we go. You'll notice that orange stuff is everywhere now. Every time you fight an enemy, once you know that it's a thing that's going on, you'll see it all over the place. Oh, of course. Here it is. So you'll see this too is entrances and exits tends to have a little bit of a tell as to what is behind them. We've seen this with some lighting, the signposts are another thing. Here, if we're looking at this, we can actually see a little bit of grass growing around the door. And that's cueing us into there's a different place beyond this passageway. So you could have gone here earlier, and what you would have been able to see is you can see the sign. It tells you this is the Pilgrims Way. And if you go further, you will run into something that looks very familiar. It's that little mini-boss that we just had to fight after we got our Vengeful Spirit ability.
Yep. Or if you did it like me, the other way around,
yes.
You find him first, you realize there's nothing you can do, and then when you go through that little mini area to force you how to learn how to use the Vengeful Spirit, he's like, oh yeah, I remember this guy before, now I know how to do it.
Mm-hmm. So let's just get inside of this area and... Here we go. Now we have arrived at the green path. So our music changes. Green path. And it's actually a multi-layered experience too. So you get, the music is different, the primary music. You get this sort of background, almost cricket kind of sound. You got the bubbling stuff going on underneath. Let's see. Obviously the visuals are different. And always interesting in this game to check the far background, the mid background, the fore background, the actual layer you're on, and the foreground in front of you. Each layer, there's parallax going on, which is great. And they help give you a sort of visual context for this world that you're in. And you see similar patterns and shapes and that kind of a thing.
And in some areas adds to the story.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You also get the sense, if you look at this guy, that the enemies here are really very different now. The enemies are baked into the theme as well, so there's little green bush guys that pop up out of the ground. They do give you a little bit of a visual and an auditory warning that they are there. So they're fairly predictable, but when you mix them in with a whole bunch of different kinds of enemies, it can kind of catch you off guard sometimes.
Yep. There's definitely, in the green path, there's definitely a few more gotcha moments introduced.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yep. Okay, well, I think this is probably about where we're going to wrap up for today. Any other thoughts or questions from anybody about Hollow Knight?
Yep. Don't be afraid to ask. I know Caleb and I both love this game, so we like talking about it.
It's true.
The Green Path and the Queen's Gardens were some of my favorite areas. I love the music in this area. The richness of the art in this area is really cool. And it's like, we touched on a lot of stuff, but the overall design and the effort that the developers went through in really making that design really tight is top notch in this game. And I think that's what really makes this game shine, is everything that you don't realize you're being directed to do.
Yeah, agreed. I think it's hard to talk enough good about the control scheme, because it's very simple, but the controls are very tight. You'll talk if you have talked to me about game design for a while, you will find that one of the things that I value the most in basically any game is controls that respond quickly the way that I expect them to. If there's like a sluggishness or anything that's not a part of what's going on, then it feels off, feels something wrong. It's like there's too much friction, or it's sticky, or it doesn't quite do what I want it to do. But this game has worked really hard on getting that nice fluid motion and movement. I gotta take a second. What we just saw, one of the other main characters of this game, Hornet, was up in the corner there. And you'll kind of follow her along a couple of times throughout this level. Very cool character. Also, if you have played this game, there is a sequel because Hollow Knight was so successful. They got plenty of money through all the income and everything, and they're making a second one. And that character is actually the lead character that the player plays in the next one. So that's Hollow Knight Silk Song.
I'd love to know how they're going to do that.
Well, what's really fascinating, because I've done a little bit of looking up and research into it, and
cool.
It's going to be quite a bit different because her character acts quite differently than the knight does, and so the input controls, everything's going to be a little bit different. It's faster. There's a lot more movement involved with your character than the knight does. Yeah, it's going to be really interesting. I think the world is supposed to be bigger than Hollow Nest, which is a little overwhelming because Hollow Nest is huge.
That's hard to believe.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I can't wait for it too. It's going to be great.
Yeah, it's very, very exciting.
So I want to know so there are multiple endings to this game, right?
Sure.
And
slight variations, I suppose. Yeah.
Variations. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess they're truly different endings.
I was going to say there are, depending on which way you go.
No, I agree. You're right.
It could be very different. Yeah. So I'm curious to know how they're going to pick that up, and if they leave the knight out of it altogether, then I guess that they could have no problem with it. Or sometimes some games just like ignore the first story and kind of build a second thread to that story.
And thread is the appropriate word here.
Yep. Aha. Bum bum. There we go. We can end the stream.
That is the highest note that this stream is ever going to be on. So might as well wrap it up here.
You know that first jump where you see the Hornet? You can actually... It's obvious that you need the double jump to get to, right? And it's a shortcut to get to later areas in this. It's a shortcut later on.
Yep.
But you can get up there now.
Can you?
Yes, you can.
Because I
tried it this weekend. And I saw something on Boss Keys. Boss Keys, by the way, has a really good video about this game.
Fantastic.
And if you jump up at the height where you're almost touching that ledge, if you turn around quickly and fire off your vengeful spirit 3 times,
that's brilliant.
It like pushes you back just a little bit. The developers, I guess they learned from playtesting that you can do this, and it was like, you know what? Leave it in. It's fine.
I don't think I can do it. I'm not going to spend any more time.
I tried.
I tried. You'll find that some people are just absolutely bonkers with what they are able to accomplish in this game. It's kind of like watching people play Breath of the Wild. What some people have done in Breath of the Wild is just... I don't even know.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Yeah, a shield has a point about Hollow Knight having influence on Ori, specifically Will of the Wisps, which is that's a sequel, right? Because Blind Forest is the first one.
Yes, I do believe so. Yeah.
And actually, Blind
that's on my list. I haven't done either one.
So I started to play Blind Forest. I hate to pass judgment on it. I don't think it's quite as good, but it does some things that are just very different. So it's very much its own unique kind of experience. I've heard very good things about the sequel as well. It's gorgeous. It's absolutely beautiful. Really cool stuff going on. Yeah,
I like the soundtrack.
It's really it makes some pretty unique decisions, I think, for a Metroidvania. It does some stuff that's very its own, and it owns those, and that's good. That's really good.
Right.
Oh, here we go. That scared me so much the first time I ran into it.
You know, something else we didn't talk about with this game is after you get through the green path, I think there's another sub-boss that you have to fight. After you get through that, and I think you get one more power-up. I think it's the wings at this point. So far, the game has been very linear, and it feels like you can go anywhere you want, but it is directing you in a path. But after that, the game opens wide up. You can go anywhere you want. There are a couple exceptions to that for story purposes or for getting to the main bosses, the 3 main bosses that you need. But you can pretty much go anywhere you want. They take the training wheels off, and you can go anywhere you want to try and mess up as hard as you want. And it's quite cool. The way they do it is really cool because it gives you control, and it gives you the ability to explore the way you want. And that's what this game is all about. It's all about exploring that path.
Yeah. I wish so much that I could show you my favorite moment of the whole game, which is when you actually arrive at the capital city, and you get to sit at the tower and you kind of look out over the city. The music, the moment, and I think you actually share that moment with Quirrell.
That's right. Yeah,
he's there with you, and you're sitting on the bench, and you just sit on the bench together, and you kind of look out over the city. And there's just something about that moment. I think I was crying watching it because it's so somber and yeah.
Well, if everyone wants to sit for another 4 hours.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, no, totally. That takes quite a while, and I think we've overstayed our welcome at this point.
I wonder really quick because we could keep going. I know we keep talking
totally
about the game. I wonder if you don't talk to him at the beginning, when you first started, you went to the left instead of the right. If you don't talk to him, and it's possible not to talk to him up to that point, does he show up in that scene?
That's a great question. I have no idea.
Yeah, I don't know, because I know if you don't talk to him, he won't be in other parts of the game. So that's interesting. Shield said, do you have a previous save that you can go back to that spot?
Technically.
True, but that scene will,
it won't. It's not quite the same thing. It's really something I encourage you to go experience for yourself.
Right. But Shield, you're right. It's the raiding city. The city that rains because there's a lake above it.
It's so great. And they never mention that. They don't ever say that once.
They don't.
No,
they don't.
You go to the city, it's raining everywhere, and later on in the game you can find the lake that's above it. And they never mention it. You could go the entire game and never realize it, but if you put together where the lake is compared to where the city is, you're like, that's where it's coming from.
Yep.
It's really great.
There's another moment in not the Abyss, the Edge, the World's Edge.
Yeah.
It's called something else. And you start in the bottom. It's a very vertical area. You start in the bottom and you work your way up. And the whole time, these like bodies of other bugs are falling down. It's like, what the heck? Where are these guys coming from? This is very ominous. What is going on here? And you find out it's from the arena that's up above you. Again, they don't say anything about it. But there's an arena with this pit under it, and whenever someone loses in the arena, they throw them down the pit. And it doesn't tell you that. This game is so full of stuff like this. The effort they took to put this game together in that fashion, as deep as it is, Dark Souls style, not really telling you all about it, is great. It's fantastic. But yeah, we could keep going. We should probably wrap it up because we've been going for 2 hours.
Oh, and that was all right. We'll leave you on a cliffhanger. That was Hunter once again, running away from you. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and we'll flip on over to this. Oh, I gotta correct that. Just a second here. There we go. All right. So, Scott, what do you think of Hollow Knight?
Looks like a really good game. I think I'm going to try it.
Yeah, you should. I definitely encourage it.
No, it's one of my favorite games. I remember when you first talked about it. I'd known of it and was like, I'm gonna check it out. Didn't realize how good of a game it was. And it's absolutely worth every hour you put into it. It's a great game. Now, if you don't like Metroidvanias, I guess it's not going to do it for you, but I think it will.
Mm-hmm.
It's a great game.
Awesome. Well, I had a lot of fun doing this. Technical difficulties aside, we'll hopefully try to continue to iron those out as we go forward. So what can you expect from future Let's Plays? Because we're going to try and do this once a month now. I think it's a fun thing for us to do, is sit down and talk in depth about a different kind of game. I think there are some games that it's going to be easier to do with than others. I was playing a game that's a sort of a 4X strategy game, and I was thinking about, what it would be like to stream this. But it's mostly just menus and clicking on menus over and over and over again. I was like, I don't know. RPGs are also challenging because there's so much text and reading and that kind of a thing involved with that. But I think we could probably make just about anything work if we put our heads to it. I asked for people to make suggestions before. Obviously, we're not going to be able to get to everybody's suggestions all the time. And actually, quite a few of those were platformers. And also, we had a number of puzzle game submissions as well. I think probably what we're going to try and do going forward is we'll pick sort of a theme of the month. So a certain kind of game, maybe a genre or that kind of a thing. And then we'll ask for people's recommendations about different games that they like within that sort of boundary. And then we'll do a vote like we've been doing. And then we'll pick up the game, try to dig into it a little bit, talk about its design, talk about the different mechanics, and go on from there. So we can have a think on themes, that kind of idea. I think it would be really fun. I don't know how feasible this would be, but it would be super fun if we could stream something like Mage Quit. Like just have lots of people online all playing it together, that kind of a thing. So that's a possibility too. It's not always necessarily just going to be Scott and I talking heads up here. We might be able to pull in some of y'all into what we're doing to be part of that as well. So there are opportunities, options. We're still thinking through all of this and what we could do and what it could all mean. So excited to have all of you journeying with us as a part of that. And please, as always, this is a community organization. If you have ideas, if you have thoughts, share them with us. We'd love to dialogue with you about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I know Caleb and I, we really like talking about the different games that teach you how to play without telling you how to play, which we focused on a lot at the beginning of this session. And I know that's something that both of us really like to talk about, as well as the other aspects of Metroidvania games. But if there's something, a talking point that you really want to focus on, give us ideas on that too. We want to serve everything, or be servants for you guys. We want to make sure that we are giving you guys what you want. So let us know. We're open to ideas.
Absolutely.
Very cool. Nice job, Caleb. That was awesome.
Thanks. Yeah. I again, big props for this game. Like, the Team Cherry did a fantastic job. Looking forward to the sequel. Grab it if you can. If you haven't played it, highly recommend it. Grab the soundtrack. Christopher Larkin is amazing. His music here is just phenomenal. So yeah, awesome. With that, that's us from COGG, your streaming Let's Play crew, and we will see you guys next time.
Yep.
Cheers.
See ya.